Where was the most deep-water fish in the world found? What awaited explorers under the sea bottom? Whom did a mysterious golden egg belong to? How did a huge figure find its place underwater? I'll tell you about it now. In this episode, you'll see findings on the bottom of the ocean that struck the whole world. Virgin Mary. A group of divers were diving in the Philippines and, quite by accident, found something amazing underwater. It was not a cluster of ancient statues or some alien-related structure. It's the very real statue of the Virgin Mary that was in front of them. To say that everyone was shocked at that moment doesn't do it justice. First of all, it was a truly unusual statue. Secondly, in the Philippines, the majority of Christians are Catholics. The Virgin Mary has a special meaning for them. For a long time, people in the network could not give a definite answer as to why the deity was underwater and what it all meant. Anyway, the question remained open for a long time. Quite soon, it was answered by the government. They stated that they had personally placed the statue underwater in the ocean to avoid the use of dynamite. Allegedly, local fishermen often dabbled in the forbidden means of catching fish and greatly spoiled nature. And since most people are religious, a statue like this could stop them. Although it's very unusual and interesting to find a statue of a deity underwater, it is far from the strangest thing divers have encountered. For example, in 2023, oceanographers found a golden egg on the bottom. Mysterious, shiny ball spotted on the ocean floor near Alaska immediately baffled the researchers because they'd never found anything like this before. Scientists could not understand the origin of the object, but suggested that it could be the shell of an egg or the remains of a sponge. It was decided to take the sample with them on land for research. However, no one knew how to do it best. People were afraid to approach the golden egg and wondered whether it was poisonous or not. Divers decided to use a special robot that acts as a vacuum cleaner. The automated arm examined the finding and transmitted data that the surface of the object is mellow like skin. Then the robot sucked the contents of this egg into a test tube. It was decided to continue the study in the laboratory conditions. Unfortunately, this is all the information that's available in the public domain so far. Nevertheless, what do you think about it? What could be this strange golden egg? Could it have something to do with alien life? Write in the comments. Yellow lobster. A girl named Marley Babb was fishing lobsters. One day, she couldn't believe her eyes. She was lucky enough to meet a crayfish with yellow coloring. Apparently, such a color in the lobster appeared due to genetic mutation. So the girl was not in a hurry to send him to one place with the rest of the creatures. Instead, she gave him a separate place and waited for the specialist to arrive. The girl was incredibly curious about what exactly happened to this lobster and why it was yellow. By the way, while Marley was waiting for people, she managed to name the lobster as Banana. Upon arrival, the scientists almost immediately gave a confident and clear answer. It's about leucism. It's a mutation that causes partial loss of pigmentation on the outer skin in animals. It manifests itself in white, pale, or blotchy coloration. Curious enough, it never affects the eyes. The reason for Banana's changed appearance was thought to be climate change. Yes, and in general, everyone in science wondered how the creature even survived to our days. After all, because of the bright coloring, this became much easier to detect it in the water. Employees of the center say that they care about Banana and do not plan to return it to the wild. Do you think this is the right decision? But what you don't have to worry about is our next guest. It was found off the coast of Japan. Just think about it. At a depth of more than 5 miles, it's said to be the deepest fish ever recorded. In fact, it's unlikely to be broken by anyone. Scientists suggest that it's no longer possible for fish to live deeper than this because the pressure's too great for anyone to cope with. The fish you're looking at is a sea snail. Its species membership could not be established. By judging its size, it was still a young fish. The creature is not of particular interest to fishermen. As you've already realized, it's very much interested in scientists. By the way, do you know what all sea snails have in common? First of all, of course, the features of their structure. All sea snails, one way or another, are similar to the giant tadpoles, even in adulthood. And secondly, they just love to eat everything in sight. They're ocean sanitarians, whose diet is based on under-eaten, sunken carcasses. In any case, whatever they ate, they managed to cope with their abnormal pressure and temperature variations, and this is very cool. For the latter, for example, their blood has special proteins with the anti-freezing effect, preventing the crystallization of liquid. And to cope with the pressure, deep-sea dwellers took and created the same pressure inside themselves. This is why it became almost impossible to study them. As soon as you have the deep-sea snail in the air, it immediately explodes. Hidden world. Yes, if you learn about findings somewhere at the bottom of the oceans, it starts to seem like things are completely different out there in the water. It's some kind of separate world that people don't even know about yet. And no, it's not my wish that everything around the world would be different. It's a conclusion drawn against the backdrop of another of the discoveries in the Pacific Ocean. It's the second half of 2023 when a previously unknown ecosystem was discovered, although the prerequisites for its discovery had been present long ago. In the 1970s, researchers found hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor spewing hot, mineral-rich fluids. But since then, no one has thought to look beneath the hot springs themselves. It wasn't until 2023 that oceanologists came up with this idea, raised the funds to realize it, and fulfilled fantasies. They literally removed the shell from the seafloor and found a colorful ecosystem of worms underneath it, snails and all sorts of bacteria that rely on minerals rather than sunlight for energy. Deep-sea worms were of particular interest to scientists. They'd never been spotted before. Do you know why? Because they travel under the ground, not above it. They travel right through volcanic fluids. Yeah, that sounds promising. But how did people figure that out? I was going to say pretty simple, but it's not the case. Scientists found it in a pretty creative way. They chose a suitable area on the ocean floor, placed a mesh box on it, and made it so that nothing and no one could get into it in the normal way. The creatures that were already in it were painted red. Before you ask, the paint is completely harmless to sea creatures and will come off after a while. So people splattered everything around with red and left it for a few days. Then, when the box was removed, it revealed a huge number of new creatures that had obviously come straight from the soil. This is what supports the theory of a previously unknown ecosystem. Just imagine how many unknown things could be hiding in the cracks of the oceans. Angular rough shark. And now I'm going to tell you about a strange shark that's no less surprising. As you may have guessed, it's called the angular rough shark. Our creature was caught in Italy in 2021. If you ask me, at the first sight that sent me shivers down the spine, although it shouldn't seem too unique for anyone who studies animal life. Oxynotus centrina, aka the angular rough shark, has a triangular shape in the cross-section. At the same time, it's hard to recognize this creature as a shark. The species was first described in 1758, and the maximum recorded length of the creature was about 5 feet. As for its life underwater, the pig shark spends most of its time searching for food. On its lips are many sensitive tubercles. They register the slightest fluctuations in the water and allow them to target the target, even if it's hidden under a layer of sand. And to make these searches even faster and more accurate, Mother Nature removed her mouth a little lower. This made its face wrinkled and took a little unusual shape for us. However, things got better for the shark. As I said, it's much easier to find food, and its eyes have increased in size. Fun fact, according to fishermen, this creature likes to grunt, and it does it very similar to real land pigs. Monster of the depth. As you may have already realized today, there are many different animals in the vast depths of the world's ocean. Now I want to tell you about one more thing. It's been discovered in the Pacific Ocean at a depth of 1.4 miles recently. The creature was even jokingly dubbed alien. It's a species of sea cucumbers unknown to science. It's a very ancient class of echinoderms that lived before the emergence of man, at the same time when the dinosaurs existed on the Earth. Holothurian, as sea cucumbers are also called, can range from 1.2 inches to 6.6 feet in length. Such diversity was possible because there are more than 1,000 species of these monsters of the depths. I'm only talking about the ones known to science. And as you've already noticed, there are also completely new representatives of the class that no one knows anything about yet. In most cases, the body of the sea cucumber has an oblong shape. However, this species, found in the Pacific Ocean, is very different from them. In addition, it has luminous organs that are noticeable even without any equipment. By the way, it would be interesting to know how, in the case of this sea cucumber, the process of avoiding the attack of a predator occurs. After all, these creatures usually throw their organs outward through the vent and thus distract the enemy. The cucumbers themselves do not die in this case, since new organs grow in them in the near future. As for sustenance, it's based on plankton and organic remains. The monster of the depths attracts them directly from the bottom sand. Sea cucumber collects the sand with sticky tentacles and puts everything in its mouth indiscriminately. The task of sorting falls to the internal organs. Giant bubble. What do you think it is? That's right, the aqua scientists who dived off the coast of Turkey in 2015 had no idea what they were dealing with at first either. It's only recently that the secret of this giant bubble was fully revealed. It turned out to be a bag of ocean squid eggs. Such a meeting is a great rarity because the cycle of eggs in the bubble lasts only for a few days. They're usually far out at sea, at great depth. For this reason, the reproductive cycle of oceanic squid is very poorly understood. Despite this, scientists have still managed to establish that each such bubble contains hundreds of thousands of eggs. After laying them, females secrete mucus that forms a bubble for protection from predators and other aggressive factors like bacteria. The dark streak running across the spheres, according to the researchers, may be a trace of ink secreted during fertilization of the eggs. It's also possible that this stripe is a camouflage mechanism. With it, the sphere resembles a large fish, and its size may deter potential predators. Grandiose alien. This is the translation of the Latin name of the new glass sponge. We're about to discuss it now. It was discovered at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean in 2010. The deep-sea landscape that appears before divers amazed even the most experienced specialists. However, there was something in it that, despite all the diversity, stood out against the general background. On a thick stalk neck, a body with two huge holes was held, looking like the eyes of an alien from a Steven Spielberg movie. As soon as the data on the study hit the web, it became known that something similar had been found by other scientists, this time not far from the Mariana Trench. No exact data on this creature have been obtained yet. It's only known that it lives at a depth of 1.2 miles or more, and these holes are likely to be necessary for pumping water where the sponge collects food for itself from. But this sponge isn't the only strange creature underwater that reminds us of a plant. Here, for example, is an amazing, lonely flower. According to scientists, it was found at a depth of about 2 miles. At the same time, its stem reaches a length of 6.5 feet and tentacles 16 inches. Judging by its impressive size, this creature is quite old, but it's not possible to determine the exact age remotely. That's all, guys. Which story touched you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.